We will try and wrap up on time this morning. During the webinar, if you have any questions, please type them in the lower right-hand chat box. We will collect your questions and try to address them at the end of the webinar. Thank you again for joining us. My name is Sarah Sladen, and I direct the Youth Economic Opportunities Network at Making Sense International. On behalf of our team, I'm very glad to welcome you to today's 2019 Global Youth Economic Opportunities Summit Call for Proposals orientation. I'm joined by Benjamin Brennan, Senior Associate for the YEO Network, and Jillian Power, our Communications Specialist for the YEO Network. For those who plan to submit a proposal this year, Benjamin will be your primary point of contact between now and the end of March when proposals are due, and if you're selected as a speaker between March and October. The summit is October 1 through 4. So to walk you through today's agenda, we're going to do this in 3 parts. The first part will offer a quick overview of the network and the annual summit. We'll share some key dates for you to save, as well as share more about the theme, the learning agenda, and the technical tracks to give you a better understanding of how the summit is structured and some of the topics that we'll explore this year. Part 2 will offer insights from last year's summit and how that's going to inform our approach to this year's agenda. This includes the details on the types of breakout sessions we include year to year and how many we anticipate being able to include this year by track. Part 3 will explain the process for proposal submission, including the review and selection process. We'll also go over some tips about what makes for a strong proposal and how proposals are typically reviewed and selected. And finally, we'll close with a few other ways you can engage and support the summit. And then we'll aim to address any questions that have been raised during the webinar. Again, you can type those in the lower right-hand chat box. If we don't get to your questions, please feel free to email our team directly. There is also a fact sheet on the summit website where typically raised questions are addressed. And again, we're happy to help you as needed between now and the end of call for proposals process in March. So to give you some background about the YEO Network, our goal is to improve youth livelihoods by advancing learning, collaboration, and impact for the global community of stakeholders working to enhance youth economic opportunities around the world. Since 2007, our platform has hosted the annual summit, as well as virtual and in-person learning events that include our Apply It webinar series, our employer roundtables, and our research roundtable on youth and the future of work in developing context. Our first research roundtable was held in April of last year. We also host an online learning hub, youtheconomicopportunities.org, where you can find a recording of this webinar following today's discussion, as well as over 2,000 resources, including new reports, research tools, webinars, and events focused on youth economic opportunities. And if you would like to keep up to date with the network, we invite you to subscribe to our monthly YEO newsletter, which you can do via yeo.org. Just to give you a quick snapshot of the summit has been held since 2007. The 2019 summit will therefore be our 13th annual event. We typically convene more than 550 technical experts from over 60 countries. Last year we had about 67 countries represented. The agenda is typically 3 days with between 45 to 55 interactive breakout sessions, high-level plenaries, trainings, and side events, as well as a number of professional networking opportunities. And if you'd like to learn more about the summit, please do visit the website youtheosummit.org. These are some of the key dates to keep in mind going forward between now and October. We encourage you to put these in your calendar and keep track. There's also going to be updates made to the website between now and then, so we do encourage you to go back there and check frequently to keep up to date. I'm going to share a little bit more about the summit theme this year. The theme is called The Opportunity Puzzle, bringing the pieces together for all youth to learn, earn, and thrive. The summit theme builds on the learning outcomes of our 2017 and 2018 focus on the changing world of youth, the changing world of work for youth in developing contexts, linking insights to date on some of the technological and structural changes that characterize the changing world of work to the broader context in which youth live and work. So beyond the skills that youth need to acquire the jobs of tomorrow, how do we bring the different pieces of youth opportunity together to create a system-wide condition for all youth to thrive? These systems questions inform the YEO Network's 2019-2020 learning agenda and the theme of this year's summit. What does this mean? We believe this means that we need to address the entire ecosystem of people, services, institutions, and policies that inform the conditions of a young person's life. We think this means engaging governments and the private sector, both as critical partners for achieving inclusive policy, scale, and access to industries of opportunity for youth. We believe this means connecting the pieces of the opportunity puzzle together in a way that is mutually reinforcing and inclusive of all young people, and ensuring that the issues of inclusion like gender, sexual identity, disability, mental health, violence, and justice are part of holistic components of our economic opportunities work with youth. This is why we're incorporating this focus at the 2019 summit. We will continue to explore a lot of areas that we've been focused on the last few years, like skills development, work readiness, self-employment, youth entrepreneurship. We'll also continue to focus on cross-cutting issues like gender, conflict, measuring impact and scale. But we do want to look at look more deeply at a couple of key areas as part of this broader theme on systems thinking. One of these is policy and governance. So how do we narrow the policy gap for youth and economic mobility? And how do we more effectively engage leadership and drive investments that benefit more young people? We're also going to be looking at engaging business. We've had a strong presence of private sector stakeholders at the summit for a few years now. We are going to be looking more closely at where are the emerging industries of opportunity, how can youth access these jobs, and how do we work more effectively with companies on recruitment, retention, mentoring, and training for youth on the job. Another big area of focus this year is the healthy workforce. So how can we incorporate a stronger focus on issues of mental health and trauma across our youth economic opportunities programs? This was a big theme that emerged last year and one we'd like to continue in 2019. And then finally, of course, we will look at the impact of disruption on youth economic opportunity. And by that, we mean issues of conflict and violence, environmental disaster, mass migration, and how these events specifically impact young people's social and economic well-being in critical ways. How do we understand the impacts, and how do we design our programs and policies to be more responsive to some of these challenges impacting youth? We use our 4 Summit tracks, our 4 Summit technical tracks, to support the theme. And we've designed these tracks around what we think of as a young person's pathway. So track 1, building a foundation, is really looking at how we put in place the basic foundational skills for youth that support and enable their long-term social and economic growth. And so in the past, we've incorporated a focus on both behavioral and socio-emotional skills, STEM, digital skills, and entrepreneurial skills, recognizing that increasingly a set of blended skills are in demand for young people. This track has explored how we train for these skills, how we measure, blended learning approaches, and we'll continue that focus this year. The second track looks at preparing young people for the formal workplace. So how do we prepare youth for the transition into the workplace and the demands of today's rapidly changing global economy? The third track, livelihood through self-employment, brings together 2 different pieces, both the growth of the gig economy and self-employment in the formal work economy, as well as the very large informal economy, and looking at where young people are working today, and looking at different strategies for how to make conditions better for young people in the informal economy, how to better prepare youth for self-employment, as well as how to engage youth entrepreneurs, whether they are growth-oriented or entrepreneurs by necessity. What are some of the resources, skills, and tools that young entrepreneurs need today? The fourth track is Global Context Matters. We've used this track to look more deeply at cross-cutting factors like gender, conflict, migration, climate change, and policy. We'll be incorporating a deeper focus on systems within this track, as well as across all of our tracks. And as in the past few years, we also incorporate a strong focus on gender in all tracks and ask that proposals address some aspect of a cross-cutting issue, in particular gender, in their proposal. So I'm going to turn it over to Benjamin Brennan. He's going to walk us through the summit at a glance and give us some insights from last year. And then we'll move into more information about the summit agenda, the format of our breakout sessions, and we'll start to talk about the proposal process.
Hello, everyone. It is great to have your participation today, and I look forward to working with you during the call for proposals process. Before I turn to the proposal submission and review process, I want to offer some quick insights on last year's 2018 summit, particularly for those of you who are new to the event. The learning takeaways from 2018 will also inform our approach to this year's call for proposals and agenda planning. So 2018 summit at a glance, these were the numbers that we saw. There were about 59 breakout sessions, which included 4 trainings, 7 plenaries, as well as professional networking opportunities, coffee breaks, and evening receptions. The 59 breakout sessions, there were a variety of topics presented. Session topics included digital solutions for youth skills, development and education, the growing gig economy and self-employment, skills and resources for youth entrepreneurs, including the role of incubators and accelerators, youth-inclusive approaches to agriculture, youth migration, emerging industries of opportunity for youth, impact of mental health, and work-based learning and employer engagement, and much more. Some of the session highlights from these 59 breakout sessions were engineering students from Ukraine that started their own Fab Lab in their garage, a case study from South Africa about understanding the impact of mental health and how sport can empower adult mentors and youth alike, and also the impact violence has on youth employment in Latin America. So, who attended last year's as well as previous year's summits? They have been policymakers, funders, government and some foundations, private companies, implementers, researchers and educators, and of course, young people. A full list of who attends can be found on the GYO Summit website at youtheosummit.org. So what makes the summit unique? What's behind these numbers that you see in front of you? It is designed for youth development technical experts and innovators dedicated to advancing youth social and economic opportunity. It emphasizes bringing together a diversity of perspectives around shared challenges for youth employment. We purposely engage a broad range of stakeholders around the same table to understand how we can work together to address youth unemployment. And there is a focus on hands-on, transferable learning. The summit format emphasizes honest dialogue about what works and also what does not. Presenters are asked to identify concrete lessons from their intervention research that attendees can apply to or adapt to their own work. Sessions encourage discussion, group problem solving, and the opportunity to generate new connections that can help implementers strengthen their work. So there are 3 types of breakout sessions included in the summit agenda. You can choose from 45, 60, and 90-minute options when you submit your proposal. You'll also note that the call for proposal submission form includes a list of format options to choose from. These are suggestive. The purpose is to prompt your team's creative thinking for how to move away from the traditional panel format. Morning sessions are about 45 minutes from 8 a.m. to 8:45 a.m. Applicants can propose a 45-minute session when they apply. In some cases, if a proposal is not selected for a full breakout session through the competitive call for proposals process, they may be offered a morning breakfast breakout session. These sessions are a great way to still be included in the agenda, raise visibility for your organization's work, and engage with summit attendees. Given the length, morning sessions are typically reserved to highlight newly launched reports or new initiatives or an overview findings and an opportunity to network is appropriate. Breakout sessions are 60 to 90 minutes. Presenters do a deep dive into their topic or expertise. There are many ways to design a successful breakout, but we emphasize sessions that are interactive, promote discussion, hands-on learning, and sessions that prompt discussion, push the audience, and invite different perspectives are considered competitive. Sessions should include an accessible tool that the audience can learn to use or access following your session, and concrete learning takeaways for attendees are a must. Strong priority is given to sessions that include youth as speakers or moderators. The duration of the sessions are decided based during the review process and informed by the content being presented, the proposed format, and strength of the overall proposal.
Thanks, Benjamin. We are also going to include training sessions in this year's agenda as we have for the past 2 years. In 2017, we first incorporated a 2.5-hour training session into the main summit agenda. Training topics to date, for example, have included how to conduct youth labor market assessments, trainings in incorporating and measuring positive youth development, and youth engagement in agriculture. We will continue to include trainings this year. However, based on our experience with the summit venue and some of the summit feedback we got from attendees, we're going to take a slightly different approach this year. We will offer a half day of 3 to 4 4-hour trainings on the afternoon of October 1st. That's the day before the main summit agenda kicks off. Our team will also curate the trainings this year rather than include a request through the call for proposals process as we've done in the past. If you have specific feedbacks on what topics would be of most interest to you or your teams, we welcome your feedback and ask that you email our team directly.
Every year, our team evaluates the GYO Summit and draws additional insight on what worked and what can be strengthened using summit surveys and one-to-one attendee feedback. 2 key pieces of information informed our approach to this year's agenda. One was from summit surveys. With 59 sessions, attendees faced a paradox of choice. While we received very positive reviews of the content included in the agenda in 2018, Attendees shared that fewer breakout session options will make it easier for them to cover topics of interest. And two, our team's own experience with the venue, which was new to us last year, we will now have a better sense of what the space can comfortably accommodate and how to best use the building to support the agenda. To do this, we'll be combining some of the rooms for more space, and as a result, we'll include fewer breakout sessions than in 2018, for a total of 48 breakouts, compared to 59 last year. This means that the call for proposal selection process will be more competitive in 2019. We will also limit organizations to a maximum of 2 proposals each this year to ensure greater equity between large and small organizations and to support more variety across the agenda. In this slide, I've included a breakdown of what we anticipate the agenda can accommodate this year. There will be a total of 10 to 11 accepted sessions per track. Going for one or submitting for one track does not mean more or less competition or different acceptance rate. Depending on the submissions we receive, these numbers may change slightly as they do year to year. Final selections are also informed by how the overall agenda takes shape. Our team reviews the agenda to ensure a balance of organizational representation, speakers, and topics. Where needed, we may opt to curate sessions to fill the gaps. Submitting your proposal. The call for proposal submission form will be available on the Summit site on February 11th until March 21st. You can apply online, or you can choose to download the PDF submission form from our website and email the completed form to me. The application form poses a wide range of questions that are designed to help us understand the topic you wish to cover, what attendees can expect to learn in your session, including clear and specific learning takeaways, and how this learning can be applied to other programs in our sector, the format of your session, or the anticipated run of the show, and who the presenters are, background, expertise, and why they are suited to present on this topic. As I mentioned, submission form includes a list of format options to choose from. These are suggestive. The purpose is to prompt your team's creative thinking for how to move away from the traditional panel format. As you're shaping your proposal, think about the kind of session you yourself would want to attend. So for all submissions, one thing I would emphasize is that please read the directions carefully. Also, make a note of the deadline for submissions and other key dates. We suggest you mark your calendars now. Be sure you understand the commitment you make to the summit if you are selected to present. This includes speaker registration and a willingness to work with our team between March and the summit to prepare your session and your team for success. All speakers will be asked to schedule an orientation call as a group. In some cases, you will also be invited to combine your session with another proposal. We do this in cases where we have multiple proposals covering a similar topic and can be strengthened by matchmaking. On the submission form, it states that the first speaker listed on the form will be designated point of contact for our team to arrange an orientation call and raise other questions as needed. I'll stop here and take a quick break and see if anyone has any questions on the 2019 agenda or submission of the proposal.
Looks like we have a couple of questions coming in for clarification. It is 2 submissions per organization. Individuals can also submit proposals, of course, and you can do so if you'd like to do more than one, you can. But in the interest of equity and diversity in the agenda, we'd like to limit it to 2 proposals last year. And this is because in some cases we have very large organizations submitting up to, upwards of 12 proposals, and small organizations pulling off maybe 1 or 2. And because we receive over 200 proposals per year with just 48 slots, it becomes very competitive and pretty challenging for the review committee to make selections in that way. So that's one of the reasons we've moved in this direction. So it'll be 2 proposals per organization. Individuals can also apply, but again, please keep that in mind when you make decisions as a team what to put forward. And here's a quick summary of what we just covered. Again, 48 breakout sessions of different lengths, 3, possibly 4 half-day trainings on October 1st, and we will be sharing more information about that going forward. Again, organizations are limited to 2 proposals each for all tracks. And then final decisions will be informed by how the agenda takes shape as a whole. So again, we look for a balance of topics, of organizational representation, and speakers. We're particularly looking for sessions that include young people as speakers, moderators, or presenters. And again, finally, the submission form will be available on the website on February 11th. And if you have questions about the form or any of what we've covered just now, you can email benjamin@makingsense.com.
So what happens once you have submitted your proposal? Once you submit your proposal, either by email or through the Summit website, our team screens and sorts proposals by track. Incomplete forms will be withheld from the review process. Screened proposals are sent to the Global Advisory Committee for a first-round review and scoring. The Global Advisory Committee, or GAC, is a group of youth development experts that volunteer their time to review proposals with our team. They play an essential role in helping us to ensure that the summit content is substantive, engaging, and fresh. GAC members can receive up to 40 proposals depending on their assigned track and are provided with a standard scoring tool. GAC members also have an opportunity to submit comments and/or questions to the proposal team for clarification. GAC also abstains from reviewing proposals submitted by their own organization. On scoring, the four main categories are session format, session content, relevance to summit theme and tracks, and quality and diversity of presenters. We will get into what these categories entail later. The members score the proposals in each category and points are tallied. Based off the scores, our teams then rank the top 15 or top 20 proposals in each track and reviews these sessions again. In some cases, proposals are sorted by specific cross-cutting topics of particular relevance to the agenda, for example, conflict, gender, technology, or food security. GAC members meet with our team to review the top 10 or 15 proposals and make final selections as a group. The review sessions are collaborative and offer our team an opportunity to understand why the committee members recommend a proposal or not. Once the proposals are selected, a draft agenda is developed. Our team makes final decisions based on how the overall agenda takes shape, based on a balance of topics, speakers, and organizations. In some cases, our team may opt to curate a session where there is a gap in a topic we feel is important to the summit theme and learning agenda. Proposal submissions are notified. For those sessions not accepted to the agenda, organizations may be offered the opportunity to present in a poster session. Sarah will say more about this in a little bit. The first look agenda is launched in May and continues to take shape between May and October as plenaries are finalized. The agenda can change, so it is important to visit the site often. If you are selected, our team will do our best to communicate with you in advance on day, time, or room changes.
So we're going to go over a little bit about what makes for a competitive proposal. And there are some basic rules of thumb that we really encourage applicants to follow. So, as you can imagine, a proposed session should not promote a product, service, or organization. And sessions that do this will be rejected. And the reason we do this is because, if you can find out information about a project or organization on a website, is that a valuable piece of information to bring to a session? And the summit is really about learning and shared knowledge exchange, dialogue, and really trying to push our sector forward. So it's really not about showcasing a project or selling a consulting service. So if we see that in a proposal, we typically toss them out. The proposal should ideally not include more than 2 speakers from the same organization and should not exceed more than 4 speakers. And this is really in the interest of both a balance of perspectives and a diversity of perspectives, as well as just time that we have allotted in a 60-minute or 90-minute session. Proposals should be participatory and use creative, collaborative formats that engage the audience and encourage conversation. They should be clear, specific, and relevant to the summit theme and selected summit technical tracks. Proposals that incorporate cross-cutting topics like gender, scale and sustainability, conflict, technology, financial inclusion, ag, M&E. These are all great. We love to see that. And we do prefer sessions in particular that address gender specifically. The sessions ideally should offer concrete and practical takeaways related to the subject matter that attendees can apply to their own work. So things like guides, tools, or research featured in a session should be available to attendees following. And really the goal is for the participants in the room to be able to walk away from your session having something concrete and applicable to their own work that they could take back to their organization and say, here's what I learned at the summit this year. And finally, of course, and this is really important, your session should include youth voices as presenters, moderators, or facilitators. And we really do give additional points to sessions that do this. And in addition, the feedback we've gotten from summit attendees is that sessions that take this approach and that have youth participation, they're typically rated really highly and people get a lot of value out of them. So again, these are really key points to keep in mind as you design your proposal. And really at the end of the day, think about what kind of session would you want to attend? How would you want to spend 60 minutes or 90 minutes of your time? at a session, what would be valuable to you, and let that be your guide. And so Benjamin mentioned the scoring tool that we give to our Global Advisory Committee during the submission process. And we just wanted to offer you a little bit more information about what the grading rubric is that we use to score proposals. And it's pretty straightforward and makes probably good sense, but we want to walk through this a little bit with you. The first, of course, is relevance. So does the session connect to the theme and designated technical track? Does it incorporate attention to issues like gender? Does the session address any of the summit's other cross-cutting topics that we've talked about this year? Content. Does the session deliver new evidence-based information that's relevant to mid and senior level development professionals? And I just want to take a minute here to remind everybody that paying attention to who the audience is really important. The summit is a group of mid to senior technical experts in youth development. So it's a great opportunity for you to go deeper. This really isn't kind of a Youth 101 summit. It's really about deepening our practice and improving our impact, the impact of our projects. So people in the room have a lot of experience from the field and a lot of depth of knowledge in youth development. And so designing your session for that kind of audience is something to really think about carefully. Does your session impart tools or information that can strengthen existing practice and advance the conversation on a given topic area? Is the session content open sourced and transferable? And again, keep hammering home this point, will participants walk away with tangible guidance on how to apply this knowledge to their own programs? The fourth rubric is format. So we're looking for sessions that are participatory, interactive, and engaging. We really look for non-traditional formats and really look at, does the content you want to convey, is it supported by how you've designed the session? Have you built in enough time for discussion, for Q&A? Is it one person talking the whole time, or is it a mix of perspectives? In what ways can participants in the room engage in the content and apply it in practice during the session? And then finally, are the presenters in your proposal selected for your proposal suited to present on the topic? Do they represent a range of viewpoints? We love sessions that have a mix of implementing organizations, funders, youth leaders, coming together around a common topic to share their different perspectives on the issue. We look for more than one organization represented in a session, and we look, of course, for gender balance and ideally developing country and youth perspectives represented in that session. So we know we've covered a lot of information about the summit. This is just a quick summary, again, of some of the points we've covered on what makes for a strong proposal. This is also available on the summit. Once we put the Call for Proposals application page up online on February 11th, all of this information will be available to you. So you'll be able to go back and reference that as you put your proposal together. And again, we do encourage you to reach out to our team if you have any other questions regarding your proposal as you put the session together. And finally, we just want to offer a couple of other examples of ways you can engage the summit. In the past few years, for proposals that have not been selected for the main agenda, but that we feel offer some really interesting learning insights or potential research outcomes, we have a poster session on the first evening of the summit. And this is a really great opportunity for organizations to bring some of their research into the summit in a different way. So we typically do the poster session during an evening networking reception. It's a great way for people to engage you and network while also learning something about your program. So if you aren't accepted this year and are offered a poster session slot at the summit, do consider it as an option to take. The second big way you can engage the summit, of course, is as a summit partner and sponsor. The summit is sustained each year through summit sponsors. It's made our event possible year after year. So if you are interested in joining us as a partner this year, sponsorship offers your organization great visibility and thought leadership. It's a great way to help shape the actual agenda itself and to weigh in on a deeper level in summit engagement. So if you are interested in sponsorship, you can contact me directly at sarahs@makingsense.com. And again, all of this information is available on our summit at youtheosummit.org. That includes key dates and location for the summit. And then again, there'll be some more information about the kinds of sessions we're looking for and other details that we've covered in today's webinar. And then finally, a recording of this webinar will be available at youtheconomicopportunities.org if you want to refresh. And then we had a couple of questions on the lower right-hand corner before we wrap up. And one of them I think is really important. You asked about what is the age range of youth as per our definition. So typically we follow, age range like a 14 to 25, World Bank or UN definitions. But the reality is that this age range varies from country to country and by project to project. It can go as young as 10, it can go as old as 29 or 30. It really depends on the project and the intervention. So we have a set age range, but we also take a fairly broad and flexible view of what that is, dependent on context. We're just seeing if there's any other questions coming through. I see some folks typing. And again, if you do have questions, feel free to reach out to our team. And again, it looks like that's it. Thank you everyone for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing your proposals for this year's 2019 Global Youth Economic Opportunities Summit. Have a good day.